Here we have the case cover lift cylinder or tonneau cover lift cylinder. Note that it's mounted upside down. It's got hoses 54 and 37 going into it, and it's pretty easy to take off. Let me show you the small tricks here. When the ball joints are just pop onto the balls that these cylinders are mounted on, and then they get stabilized with these little pins. So the pin needs to be turned around first, pulled out before you can push this off the ball joint. Same on the bottom end, you pull the pin off the collar here, pull it out, and then you can remove the lower ball joint. At that point you can just lever this ball joint off the ball. And the other thing I wanted to show you is the hydraulic line clips. These guys can be on pretty tight, and they are obviously different from the ones you've seen for the two aluminum cylinders. So these clips snap onto the hoses, and they go through this little metal tube that sticks out the side of the cylinder, the hydraulic line port. The important part is that you do not want to lever your tools over these delicate tubes, because these tubes might bend and break. If you have to stick a lever in here, then always lever this way. Lever your pin that you might have been able to get through this little hole here, lever it towards the inside of the cylinder to loosen up the clip. You don't necessarily have to use a pin to get this clip loose. Some of them you might get lucky enough if you have a good pair of pliers that has a firm grip. You wiggle, 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 and pull at the same time, and the clip will come out. And of course, inserting it is the other way around, but you don't need to lever anything when you reinstall the cylinder. You just push this clip back onto the hose, and you might have to tap on it a little bit to get it back into place. So let me show you life in action here. First thing we need to do is unclip the cut the zip tie here, and note how these lines are routed. That is, line 37 is coming straight down, but line 54 is looped. So just make sure you put the hoses on the right way again. So I will, just because there's not much room here in front of the camera, I'm not even going to try prying this loose with pliers. I'm going to put my pick into this little gap that has loosened up this clip. You can see it wiggling. I'll do the same thing on the bottom. Is it wiggling yet? Yeah, now it is. Now I can grab those pins and those clips and pull them out. But before I do that, this was just to loosen things up. Before I do that, I'll take these hairpin style pins out of the ball joint on top. Same thing on the bottom. Come on, move. There we go. Almost. There it is. It's off the collar. Now I need to pull it up without losing it down there, meaning losing the pin down there. Easier said than done. There we go. And I have that pin on the end of my pick. So now I need something larger to lever this off the ball. Soft top tool works pretty well. We can do the same thing on the top. There it is. Now before I pull the hydraulic line retaining clips, I will actually push the shaft in. That way I get a little bit of fluid back into the pump. In this particular case, I'm not necessarily trying to save fluid, but I don't want to have a mess at my hands when I take these hoses off. Now I pull the shaft again a half inch or so, until there's no pressure on each one of these hoses, so I don't have stuff squirting at me when these pins come out. The pin has been loosened. Now I can grab it with pliers and wiggle and pull. Well, as I said, sometimes these are in there pretty tight. So here we go. I levered it somewhere this way. This trick may actually work better than a pin, but it's their own way of doing it. Here we go. We grab it, wiggle and pull. This actually is the best way to do it. Just learn something. Hoses are out. Zip tie has been cut already. We take the good new cylinder from Top Hydraulics, put in our hoses, 54 and 37. Zip tie right here, just the way it was before. And of course we don't want to forget to put the hydraulic line clips back on. If they don't slide all that well, as I said earlier, you can tap a little bit. It's back in place. Once you have something like a 1/16 of an inch gap left here in the slot. Same thing on the other side. And you always want to have the shaft retracted when you're dealing with the clips, because if you accidentally have a tool slipping while the shaft is pulled out, then you might damage the shaft. Top Hydraulics never charges for damage that we can massage out. It's rare that we get damage bad enough on these style cylinders that we have to replace a shaft, but if somebody was extremely careless, then we might have to replace a shaft. Of course, you don't want to have to pay for that. So we pop this back on the upper ball joint, pull out the shaft, put it back on the lower ball joint with just a little bit of wiggling and pushing. There, it's on. Last thing to do is put the two pins back to secure the ball joint in place, and there we are.